What if I told you that the story of Korea is one of resilience, betrayal, and revolution? A story of kingdoms that rose from myths, empires that battled invasions, and a people who refused to be erased from history. This is the story of a land that has shaped the world in ways Uvia never imagined, a peninsula forged in fire and defined by an unbreakable spirit. Welcome to the epic tale of Korea. Long before the neon-lit skylines of Seoul or the mysterious quiet of Pyongyang, Korea was a land of mountains, rivers, and mystique. Our story begins in the mists of prehistory, around 700,000 years ago, when early humans first walked this rugged peninsula. Fast forward to 2333 BCE, where legend tells of the founding of the first kingdom Goguryeo by a figure named Dangun. He was said to be the son of a god and a bird-turned-woman. Whether you see this as myth or a metaphorical origin, this story became the very heartbeat of Korea's national identity, powerful symbol of unity, courage, and endurance. Goguryeo flourished in the fertile river valleys of northern Korea, mastering iron tools and creating early forms of governance. But with power comes envy. By the 4th century BCE, the kingdom faced immense pressure from neighboring Chinese states. Ultimately, the powerful Han dynasty annexed parts of northern Korea around 108 BCE. It was a devastating blow, but even in conquest, the Korean identity didn't just survive, it became an enduring thread, weaving through centuries of upheaval that were yet to come. After Goguryeo fall, Korea by the 1st century BCE, three dominant powers had risen from the chaos: Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla. This was the era of the three kingdoms, each with its own unique culture, language, and grand ambitions. Goguryeo in the north was a fierce and expansive warrior state, constantly repelling invasions from Chinese dynasties and spreading its influence deep into Manchuria. Baekje in the southwest became a beacon of culture and art, a maritime power that traded its knowledge and Buddhist teachings with Japan. And Silla, in the southeast, though smaller, was cunning and strategic, mastering the arts of diplomacy and building powerful alliances. For centuries, these kingdoms clashed in brutal, bloody wars. The battlefields were soaked with ambition, but even amid the chaos, a rich culture blossomed. Grand temples rose towards the heavens. Advanced metallurgy created legendary armor and weapons, and Buddhism began to weave itself into the spiritual fabric of the land. Finally, in the year 668 CE, Silla, with a crucial alliance from the Tang dynasty of China, achieved what seemed impossible. It unified most of the peninsula. This unified Silla period ushered in a golden age. Art, poetry, and philosophy flourished. Magnificent Buddhist temples like Bulgaksa and the Siakguram Grotto were built masterpieces of architecture and faith that still stand today, whispering the echoes of ancient devotion to all who visit. But no dynasty lasts forever. After centuries of relative peace and prosperity, the Silla kingdom weakened from within. Out of this decline rose a new power, the Goryeo dynasty, which began in 918. It is from the name Goryeo that we get the modern name Korea. Goryeo was a period of incredible achievements. It established a centralized government, oversaw a thriving economy based on trade, and gifted the world one of its most incredible cultural treasures, the Tripitaka Koreana. This is a massive collection of Buddhist scriptures, painstakingly carved onto more than 80,000 wooden blocks, an act of devotion, and a testament to the era's craftsmanship. Yet Goryeo's story is also one of immense struggle. The 13th century brought the Mongol invasions, a series of devastating campaigns that ravaged the peninsula. Goryeo kings were forced into decades of subservience to the vast Mongol Empire. Despite this immense pressure, the Korean people persevered. They refined their world-famous Celadon pottery, developing its iconic jade green glaze even under foreign rule. They strengthened their military defenses and held fast to their cultural integrity, refusing to be absorbed by a foreign power. When the Goryeo dynasty eventually fell, a new and even more enduring dynasty rose to take its place. Joseon, founded in 1392 by the brilliant general Yi Seong-gai. Joseon would last for over 500 years, making it the longest ruling dynasty in all of Korean history. This was an era defined by Confucian principles, a strict social hierarchy, and a profound cultural refinement. The new capital, Hanseong, which we now know as Seoul, became a vibrant hub of scholarship, art, and groundbreaking science. Perhaps Joseon's crowning achievement came in 1443, when King Sejong the Great oversaw the invention of Hangul, the Korean alphabet, before Hangul. Writing was a privilege reserved for the elite who could master complex Chinese characters. But this new script was simple, elegant, and incredibly powerful. It democratized literacy, allowing common people to read and write for the first time. Hangul remains a cornerstone of Korean identity and a symbol of the nation's innovative spirit. But even during its golden ages, Joseon faced constant threats. In the late 16th century, Japan launched two massive invasions that left the peninsula scarred. In the 17th century, the Manchus invaded from the north. Internally, the royal court was plagued by political strife, factional purges, and betrayals. In response to these external threats, Korea adopted a policy of isolationism, becoming known to the West as the Hermit Kingdom. It fiercely guarded its unique culture from foreign influence while navigating the treacherous waters of regional geopolitics. The 19th century shattered this isolation. Western imperial powers and a newly modernized Japan began circling, eager to exploit Korea's strategic location. The fragile peace was broken. By 1910, after years of political maneuvering and military pressure, Korea was formally annexed by the Empire of Japan. This began 35 years of harsh, brutal colonial rule. During this dark period, Koreans endured unimaginable hardship. Their land was seized, their resources were plundered, and they were subjected to forced labor. The Japanese colonial government launched a campaign of cultural suppression. The Korean language was banned in schools, people were forced to adopt Japanese names, and a systematic effort was made to erase centuries of Korean history and identity. But the Korean spirit could not be extinguished. In fact, the oppression only fueled the fire of resistance. Independence movements flourished, both within Korea and among exiled communities abroad. On March 1, 1919, millions of Koreans across the country rose up in a massive, non-violent protest against Japanese rule. This March 1st movement was a pivotal moment, showcasing the unbreakable will of the people. Though it was violently suppressed, it inspired a generation of freedom fighters, leaders in exile, in places like China and Russia, laid the groundwork for Korea's eventual liberation. This struggle was painful, heroic, and deeply unifying, a testament to a resilience that still resonates powerfully today. In 1945, the Allied victory in World War II finally brought an end to Japanese rule. Korea was free, but the celebration was tragically short. A new global conflict, the Cold War, was already beginning. The fate of the peninsula was decided not by Koreans, but by superpowers. Korea was arbitrarily divided along the 38th parallel, the north falling under Soviet influence, and the south under US influence. Dreams of a unified, independent nation were shattered. Tensions between the two new states escalated rapidly, culminating in the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950. The war was an absolute catastrophe. For 3 years, the peninsula was a battlefield. Millions of live soldiers and civilians were lost. Cities were turned to rubble, and countless families were torn apart by the fighting and the newly fortified border, many separated to this day. An armistice was signed in 1953, but it was not a peace treaty. The war was simply paused. And from this devastation, two very different Koreas emerged. South Korea, with sheer grit and determination, rebuilt from the ashes. In just a few decades, it performed the miracle on the Han River, transforming into a global economic powerhouse. Today, it's famous for its cutting-edge technology, its vibrant democracy, and a cultural wave K-pop and K-dramas that has captivated the world. North Korea, by contrast, followed a path of isolation and militarization under the Kim dynasty, becoming one of the most secretive and authoritarian states on the planet. Today, Korea is a land of stunning contrasts. It's a place where technological marvels stand alongside ancient temples, where bustling megacities give way to serene mountain landscapes. It is a peninsula defined by both vibrant democracy and rigid authoritarianism, freedom and control, all existing in a delicate, tense balance. So, after millennia of conquest, survival, and reinvention, one great question remains: where will Korea's journey take it next? Will the North and the South one day find a path back to unity? Or will history continue to test the incredible resilience of this remarkable land and its people? The final chapter of this story has yet to be written. Thanks for joining us on this journey through Korean history. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the stories that shaped our world. See you next time.